Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Lakewood City Council study session on October 15th, 2018 at 7 p.m. in council chambers. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Paul?
Here.
Johnson?
Here.
Vincent? Here. Beta? Here. Franks?
Here.
Roybal?
Here.
Gutwein?
Here.
Skilling? Here. Harrison?
Here.
Abel?
Here.
LeBure?
Here.
You have a quorum.
All right. So tonight we have a couple presentations, and it looks like we're going to start with Head Start, and I'm not sure who's presenting. All right. Come on down. Good evening. Welcome.
I'm going to turn it this way. Is that okay? Good evening. Good evening, Mayor Paul and the City Council. It's an honor to be with you this evening, and I'm excited to share with you some highlights from our annual Head Start annual report for last school year, 2017-2018. I'm Sherry Peterson, the Head Start administrator, and I just want to let you know I'm not going to go into all the detail that's in this report, but I'd like to just give a good snapshot of some of the highlights and some of the things I think you'll enjoy seeing about the community that we're involved in. So key facts is, you know, and probably heard from me many times, that Head Start really is a poverty level program where families are at the 100% poverty level. We have a current funded enrollment of 110 children, and last year we touched the lives of 150 children. So we did see a turnover rate of 40 children last year. The staff who support or provide these services include 16 teachers and assistants, 3 family support, 3 early Head Start home visitors, and 7 content experts that support the staff in their everyday work, like our RD, our registered dietitian, also our nurse. I just wanted to tell you, I don't think I've ever shared with you that 5 of our staff are actually former Head Start parents who chose to work in this profession and moved up through the ranks to become a part of Head Start programming, which I think is a nice success story. And last year, we had a staff member who was just working with us 2 hours a day doing a food prep position. She actually went to school, completed her CDA, which is a credentialed degree or certificate, and she moved into one of our bilingual assistant positions this year, and now is in a fully benefited position. So we really do encourage our staff and our parents to move up within. Nothing ever happens without a budget. So here is our budget moving into 2018-2019. As I've talked about before, we have our federal base funding, and then our non-federal share is that 20% match that we have to match to our federal grant. And so we also have our total program budget a little over $1.5 million now. That's really grown over the years that we've had the program. That also included a 2.6 cost of living increase that came through in June of this year. So 2 program highlights is that we did go through a federal review this last year, and we were finding free in our focus area 2 review, which means for next steps is it will be qualified to write for our next grant, our 5-year at 2020. We also had a wonderful surprise visit in August from Dr. Deborah Bergeron. Her picture is here. She is our newly appointed director from the Office of Head Start in Washington, D.C. She commented on the creative use of our classrooms, our outdoor facilities, and the passion that staff showed when talking about their work with children and families. She also brought her guitar and played out in our outdoor classroom, and the children gathered in a circle time. Very hands-on new director. So we're very excited to have her in Washington, D.C. to support our programming. So our program is built on 3 strong components: our staff, our family, and our community. Built on a foundation of school readiness, our staff are trained and they provide a quality environment, materials for exploration, and they engage with the children on a daily basis. Everybody likes to see the outcomes, so I have the fall outcomes from 2017 and the spring outcomes in the 6 areas of development that we measure. Take a look at mathematics. These are children who are going to kindergarten. When they entered our program, they were a 37% rate, equal to their peers. And when they left, they were at 88%. Very significant increase due to just to the exposure of materials and classroom and staff involvement. So we always like to look at these wonderful outcomes. And that way children feel and families feel that they're ready to go to kindergarten. And of course, we wouldn't be here without the families. Family involvement is definitely the key to success for our children moving forward. Last year, we had 145 parent volunteers who supported our policy council, which is kind of our governing piece with the parents, classrooms, and field trips. One parent shared the following statement with us. I learned from Head Start how to ask questions and how to be an involved parent in my son's education because I never had a role model to do that in my life. So now I know what to do as a parent. That's just a great statement about our families. The families, not only do the children have goals, but the families have goals. And each of our families work with a family support team coordinator to create a personal or a family goal. Sometimes families do goals like I need to do job training or I need to attend school. Sometimes it is I need to look for stable housing. But a group of 4 moms led by Jose Rifas actually trained for the Colfax Marathon. And what they got out of it was, I want to be an example for my children and family for a nutritional and healthy lifestyle. So here's their pictures. It was very exciting to see them do that. And they finished it, which was great. And where would we be without our community members? Community partners are the next key to our success. From the Kiwanis Club, who comes in and volunteers to do maintenance in our outdoor classroom, to our community partners like the fire department, who offer field trips for families and children to enjoy. And that's one of our little early Head Start little girls there who's trying to hold the fire hose. So many thanks from the staff, and this is a picture of all our staff from last year. A lot of us crammed together. Thanks to the City of Lakewood, the mayor and city council, to our Lakewood Advisory Committee, to our Head Start Policy Council, to families, children of Lakewood Head Start and Early Head Start, our staff, our community members, and we look forward to a great program year and new experiences as we enter 2019. And if anybody would like to see an electronic copy of this report, we have it at lakewood.org, or you can request a paper copy also. So that's the fun stuff we've been doing. Any questions or ideas?
Great. Thank you very much. Always a great time. It's usually a dual report, once in the fall, once in the spring, and the spring is much more lively when you bring in all the kiddos, but this was great information. So I'm going to first turn to our Head Start committee members, who's Counselor Abel, Franks, and Vincent, and see if there's any questions or comments. Counselor Abel?
Comments. Every time we go visit these kids, it's a smile for days. The staff's very involved, and the kids are just eager. Can't say a lot more about it, and we deliver these services for, I believe, less than the public interest in daycare centers and such do. So we employ very qualified people, and I'm just glad I can be part of the committee. Thank you.
Great. Counselor Franks?
Yes, and really thanks to Sherry for all the hard work. Always so detailed. She keeps us well informed. We have all the information. I appreciate how much you not only take care of obviously the operations side of the numbers, but just the passion that you guys bring to the work. And it's just, for us, it's amazing to watch how the kids grow each year and improve. And that's really what it's all about, is getting them ready for kindergarten. And that's the goal. And you guys really do a wonderful job. So we appreciate you.
Sir Vincent?
Yes, I'd just like to echo everything that everybody else has said. And I think I've always made it clear that my favorite part is the outcomes, because that is just so incredible what happens every year. And I would like to congratulate Head Start, because they did get a team together for the Colfax Marathon. Just saying, folks.
We tried.
Oh,
His goo line.
maybe next year.
Well said from everybody, and just want to add, looking at that math outcome is just incredible to see what a difference this is making in the people who need it the most. So really appreciate everything you do. Thank you.
So I actually have one question that has to do with the future of federal funding and kind of where you see this program could be in the next 2 to 3 years. Do we feel that those dollars will continue to come in? Will we see an increase? Will we see a decrease?
We're going to keep our fingers crossed that it will either maintain. The cost of living increases have been consistent, and I've been in Head Start 20 years, and we saw 15 years without cost of living increases. So the fact that we've had cost of living increases over the last 3 to 4 years has been phenomenal, because that goes right into our base funding, which really helps support the program. And then I believe year before last, they did expansion of hours and days, and we were able to tap into that for $220,000. So right now, it's been consistent and strong, but even if we saw cost of living increases fluctuate a little bit, I feel like where we are with the number of classrooms, the number of children that we provide services for, and where we're at as a program, we're strong going into another 5-year grant.
Love it. Okay, and for the folks viewing, where are our locations?
So we have one on the general area of Patterson in Florida. No, sorry,
Wadsworth in Florida, which is Patterson, right?
which is Patterson, and there's 3 cottages there. And then we have one at 11th Avenue, which is our northeast location off of 11th and Lamar.
Yep.
Always forget the cross streets. And then we have one at Lasley, which is right across from the Lasley Elementary School. And then we have one in the Daniels Community area, which used to be our Daniels Community Center here, and I believe it's 13th and Union.
Okay.
So
Great. And for some of these kids, do they get breakfast and lunch, or?
2/3 of their nutritional requirements for the day.
Right.
And I didn't bring it out, but in the report, we actually have at Patterson Head Start, which is our full day year round, they're doing food bags for the weekend, like they do in the public schools. We did a trial over the summer with snacks, and now children are getting like 2 or 3 meals in a food bag for every weekend to take home, which has really helped supplement a lot of that children need.
That's great. So are you doing that in-house, or is that coming from
It's
a
coming
partnership?
from the outside. It's a partnership.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. Okay. Well, anything else? Any other questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'll open up the public input portion for that. Nobody signed up. I will close public input and go to our next presentation, which is the state of the courts. Judge Thabig. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome.
Yes, thank you. Okay, great. Thank you, Mayor Paul, council, and members of the Lakewood community. I very much appreciate your support and the encouragement and feedback that you've given to us, both personally and as a court. We really very much appreciate how much you do for us. The state of the court is strong. We continue to be a leader among the municipal courts in the state with innovative programs and work and approaches that are based on the latest research. We're really looking to the root causes of the antisocial behavior that we're looking at and trying to use the latest research in addressing that. Our goal is to keep Lakewood safe and healthy by enforcing the laws, the ordinances, helping people and families make changes in their lives so that they can lead better and happier lives. I want to introduce the people that have come along and let you know that I continue to be very grateful for our talented and hardworking staff. Judge Dan Ramsey is not here tonight. He's actually at a family reunion. He's been with the court for 28 years, and we still very much appreciate his wisdom and his experience. Judge Corinne Flanagan is here. She has now been with us for 4 years, and she's very much become a leader, not only in the courts, but in the state. She's on the Colorado Municipal Judges Board now, and has been really spearheading some special projects around the state and also in the county. And so she's become a leader very, very quickly. We have 9 part-time relief judges. They aren't here, but I just wanted to mention that many of them are retired district and county court judges, so they bring a wealth of experience. And then most of the rest of them are retired district attorneys and public defenders, and so it's a tremendous group of judges that have criminal law experience. We also have a brand new judge that I just hired last month, who most of you know, he's very familiar, and that's Judge Scott Barraway. And he was with us, took a brief leave of absence, and we're really pleased to have him back. My new court administrator is Scott Hefty, and most of you know Scott because he was the probation manager, chief probation officer for over 8 years, and he's really instrumental in putting our whole probation department together. He's the one that really got the programming and all the energy together, and so he's done a great job, and now he's bringing all those organizational skills and his enthusiasm into being the court administrator, and morale has been high, and he's just done an outstanding job. Stepping into his shoes is our Chief Probation Officer, Jennifer Zublik, and so she's been here just a year, and she's got a great start. She has a lot of enthusiasm. She's jumped in, and she's come up with a lot of new ideas and new ways of doing things, and so it's really been great to have her with us. And then we have Chief Mark Dietl. Many of you know Mark, who's been with us for 8.5 years in the courts, and he was with the Lakewood Police Department for 25 years. And so his experience is just tremendous. Mark has been a real problem solver and really great on being innovative and trying to address some of the challenges we've had, particularly with some of the legislation and the jail numbers. And so he's really been a tremendous asset for us, and we appreciate him. Tammy Smith is unable to be here tonight. I bet she's watching on TV, and she's been in the courts for 26 years. She knows everything about the courts. She does the work of about 3 full-time people. She can answer every question. She can solve every problem. And so much revolves around Tammy. Right now, when I say that she's been doing the work of 3 full-time people, we're about to go paperless. So we're taking all the court files, so some 18,000 or so a year, and putting them on the computer. And she's been instrumental in making sure that happens. She's worked just hundreds of hours with IT, and I do need to say that the support of the city with this has been great. IT, particularly Olga and Wayne, have been just amazing to work with, but they, with Tammy, have really put together what looks like it's going to be a great system. I've been a little nervous about it, but I'm getting more and more excited as we see what it's going to look like. We're going to have public portals so that defendants can actually pay fines and see the status of their cases just by getting on the computer. They can look and see if they have upcoming court dates. They can check to see if they have any active warrants. We're still trying to figure out how much we're going to let them do with those warrants on the computer, because some of them maybe don't want to come into court. But we're able to do an awful lot more through the public portals. Those will also be used for attorneys who want to file. It should make it easier for public defenders to get their discovery, for defense attorneys to be able to do electronic filing. And I think overall it's just going to be very exciting to go electronic. The judges will be able to pull up everything, whether in the chambers or in court, or I guess even from home. So we'll see how all that goes, but it really is quite exciting. Most of you have heard a lot about the programs that we've had over the years, and I want to focus on some of the new things. We're trying to respond and evolve in response to some of the needs that we have in Lakewood. Now, we don't do felony drug cases, we don't do possession cases, but we see an awful lot of addicts. And when we tend to see them is when we have shoplifting cases or disturbances, and then they often end up having drug paraphernalia on them, or they just admit to us that the reason that they're troubled and committing these crimes is that they've been addicted to opiates. Jennifer Zublik is one of the things that she really spearheaded, got together a group of over 20 agencies, and these were treatment providers, community advocates. The Department of Health is very involved, probation officers, judges, and we had a stakeholder meeting to try to introduce ourselves to everyone, introduce them to each other. And this is, I think, a very important movement. There are various groups around the county that are trying to do this sort of work, but Jennifer's idea was to really try to get everybody at the same table and coordinate efforts. We're excited about the possibilities. We are going to have a pilot program with one probation officer who's going to be specially trained and who already has some pretty good experience dealing with drug issues. And he's going to take a very small caseload at first, probably 8 to 10, and try to just really focus resources and attention and supervision on some of the ones that are more willing to get help, but also really struggling with it. Probation also will take a number of cases, but to tell you the truth, we have a lot of people that need these resources, and so the courts and the city attorneys probably supervise most of the people that have these kinds of issues. And I do want to thank the city attorney the city attorney's office has really been quite amazing on what they're willing to do. From what I understand around the state, that a lot of city attorneys' offices don't get involved in the monitoring and checking on whether or not people are actually doing the treatment that they're saying they're doing. And our city attorney's office is very careful. They want to make sure that they verify everything. And that really holds up the standard of integrity and makes sure that people are following through. So I appreciate them a lot. We have to look at a variety of approaches with this. Some people need more residential treatment, which is actually pretty hard to find these days. Others just need transitional housing before they get into certain programs. We're trying to get better information on resources. The Department of Health has come out with some new lists of resources and ways to access those. And so it's actually been a very exciting kind of movement. It's a problem we're going to have, I think, for a while, so we just want to make sure that we're addressing it as best as we can. And then the courts, I think, are still very important because the punitive sanctions and even the possibility of jail can often be what needs to happen. We had a woman just a number of months ago who was actually with us on a domestic violence charge. And she had every good intention. And so we kept giving her PR bonds so that she'd go do treatment. And she kept running out and getting high again and not coming back to court. So it was just an in and out, and she kept failing to appear. Finally, we just said, you've got to just sit in jail until we can get a bed opened up. And it did take 2 months to get that bed opened up. And then talking to her after she came back to court after treatment, she said, jail saved my life. And I'm so thankful that you didn't let me out again. And that's the approach that we just have to use for some of the ones that are so desperate and so addicted that they sometimes do need that. And so we use it sparingly, but when it's needed, it's really important to have that option for us. And so we are going to continue to host the stakeholders. The Lakewood Police are very involved in this. I should let you know that they have a lot of creative ideas, and we're working very closely with them in that group, and then also with the Community Resources group, the smaller group of officers I believe you all gave money to. They're hitting the ground running. You approved a number of new officers, and they've already been effective, and they're already really looking at some of these issues. So they're much appreciated. One of the leadership roles that Judge Flanagan has taken is that she's the co-chair of the Minority Overrepresentation Subcommittee. And this is a Jefferson County First Judicial District best practices team that that got a grant actually to look at whether minorities were overrepresented in the juvenile justice system. And I have to give real kudos to the Lakewood Police Department because they offered, and the court offered, to be the guinea pigs on this. I think a number of you have mentioned this too in the last couple of years. And it's finally getting to the point where we have the data that the courts have collected and that the police have collected. And so now we're really looking at what we can do and whether there actually is an issue. It looks like awareness, training, enhanced communication are going to be really important in all of this. But we're also, we have made some changes, so now ethnicity is actually reported on every summons, which is important just to be able to even see whether there are problems. Probation officers are now meeting monthly with school administrators with an eye toward trying to identify at-risk students and families so that they can try to get services in place before there is any trouble. We're really trying to do prevention through this group. And there are a lot of new ideas. I think probably next year I'll be able to tell you about some of the programs and ideas that they're putting together and how they're spending that grant money. The Lakewood Early Action Program is this is our juvenile mental health program, and I always have to hesitate and remember what LEAP stands for. So we were really pleased this year to be invited to join the Court Support Jeffco, and Court Support Jeffco is the nonprofit that supports specialty courts. And so we did a presentation with them a few months ago, and they welcomed us, and so they are going to be supporting us with just some funds to give for rewards and to help us get activities for the kids. This is the program, and a lot of you have heard a lot about this, that Agent Fred Peters of Lakewood Police Department really thought up. I mean, he was working as an SRO with the Sobeski Academy with the at-risk kids with mental health diagnoses. And Fred Peters came to the court and asked us if we could do something so that these kids who were really acting out because of their mental illnesses, whether we could do something to give them sanctions and guidance and plans without having them reoffend and get deeper and deeper into the criminal justice system. And so we have this program which involves 10 kids, and they do tend to be challenging kids, but kids that just really need that support. And what is fun is that Fred Peters left the Lakewood Police Department, and he's now in our probation department, and he's actually the probation officer in charge of these kids and in charge of this program, which has been great. And so we've had 17 kids on that program in the last year. And again, a lot of them have been quite successful. We require mental health treatment. They have to be in school. What we look at as success is really to be avoiding further criminal behavior, be in treatment, and be in school. And as basic as it might sound, it can be pretty challenging for some of them. We've had a fair amount of success. We had a girl last year who refused to get out of bed, refused to go to school, refused to go to counseling treatment, wouldn't go to the doctor. And anytime anybody, including her family members, would try to get her up, she would attack them. She actually became quite violent. It was through this program and through in-home therapy, and then the whole consequences and rewards and, working with her for a few months that finally got her to a point where she is now in school, in therapy, getting medication, and really functioning. And I think that as much as anything, sometimes the parents need help putting a plan together, and they need help with somebody who's saying, no, I'm going to give you a consequence, and I'm ordering it. And so we were really pleased with her, and often really pleased with how the program works. Again, Lakewood has been very supportive. Community Resources agreed to support what we call our YES program. And what they do is give us passes to the rec centers for free. We send our probation officers with the kids, and they do basketball, hiking. They can do drumming and some non-athletic kinds of things too, but it's just been a really nice resource for us to have. Now, the Court Support Jeffco also supports the Lakewood Veterans Program, and many of you are familiar with that. And this is the program that was really started because of a fairly small group of veterans. Most veterans come in and are very successful, and they thrive in our community, and they contribute tremendously. But we do have the small group of veterans who struggle, and so this program is really meant to stabilize them, reintegrate them, help them to be law-abiding. And we've had I believe it's 14 veterans in the last year on this program, and 6 of them have been successful this year that we've actually completed. And I guess I want to just emphasize what success means when I say 6 out of 14. 5 of them are still on the program out of that 14. But we're talking about people who are coming back often from multiple tours of duty. We have one guy who did 3 combat tours, 2 in Iraq and 1 in Afghanistan. 2/3 of them have been actually in combat situations. And the people who are in the vet court tend to be the highest risk and the highest needs. So this group came in homeless, severe mental health issues. Most of them were actually very suicidal, with a number of suicide attempts. Couldn't hold down jobs, addicted to drugs and alcohol, and really very desperate. So the program is really focusing on those that really feel like they've reached the end. And so when we talk about success, we're talking about the vets who are now able to get housing. 6 out of the 14 are now in housing. 6 of them have been absolutely successful, and then most of the ones that are on the program participating are doing much better. We get them hooked up to the VA, and so they have to be sober. They have to get jobs or have something that they're doing that's a pro-social activity. And then the mental health treatment, of course, is really significant. And it's the people, the mentors from the police department, our probation department. Scott Hefty is still really involved in that. He said he couldn't leave that even if he became court administrator. So he's still very involved in that program. And it's exciting to see what happens. Many of you are aware of the West Metro Veterans Fair that we put on each year or help coordinate. And we had the 6th West Metro Veterans Fair just last month, and it had more people than ever, lots of positive feedback, and really it has been a good outreach and a way to help the various stakeholders get connected. We've also had a number of people who've come to us because they want to start their own veterans programs. So it's been municipalities, actually even some people from out of state, and some district courts from around the state. So we've had a lot of visitors and a lot of people that want to try and learn what we've done, and we're happy to share what we've been able to learn so far. I would love to talk to you about the probation programs that we have, and I know most of you have heard a lot about them, so please come see me, and I can talk for long times and answer questions. We can show you around. I know that you are aware of what we do. Again, probation monitors compliance with court orders for several thousand of our criminal adult and juvenile defendants. And so they're very busy. And again, looking at substance treatment, mental health treatment, school attendance, community service, and then making sure that they don't commit more crimes. I should note that the domestic violence cases are still our highest priority. Again, I've talked to you all a lot about what we do with domestic violence cases. The more serious cases always have to go to the county court, and that's appropriate. But we have the less serious, but still, significant domestic violence cases. And I think municipal court does a good job, and we're the appropriate place for them. We don't give up on them. We may give them quick sanctions, but we want to see them through the domestic violence treatment, committing no more crimes, and then having sobriety. And we do come up with a fair amount of success on those. The juveniles, we still base our juvenile sentences and consequences on the risk assessments. And now that we've been doing this for a number of years, we actually have 3 years, which can show us that what the research predicted was right, that these evidence-based assessments really do show who reoffends and who doesn't. And so this has given us much more confidence that we are doing the right thing on really focusing our attention on the medium and higher risk kids. And then the low risk kids are basically in and out with appropriate small consequences, just looking at either the crime or whatever issues they have that led to the crime. And most of them come out of court with no criminal history. The vast majority of kids come through municipal court and they get diversion. And that really does mean that we can focus on the higher risk kids. Again, I appreciate your support with the juvenile cases. You've all given us extra support for their UAs, for one thing. The work crew is no longer residential, and so a lot of the money that we've used for that is being used for testing in UAs and basically the kind of treatment that the kids need. So I've appreciated that you all have chipped in. You've filled some gaps there that we really needed filled. So thank you for that. And we're still doing the Girls Circle Teen Court graffiti cleanup. We've still got a lot of kids going through that, and Shane Littleton runs this program. One thing that I think is really interesting about that, they do a lot of good work. Shane also mentors and really spends time talking to the kids and trying to give them a pro-social experience. So he does a good job with that, on top of trying to keep things cleaned up. We're still doing the youth educational team program. We created a second Spanish court day and put that in the afternoon so that kids wouldn't miss school. And we almost never use detention these days, so it's very much the last resort, and we're finding that the other consequences and really focusing on the positive and trying to get kids into treatment is most effective. We did a school supply drive, and this was our new chief Jennifer Zuplick's idea, and came up with 130 backpacks full of school supplies that we were able to give out to kids at the beginning of the year. That was a fun idea and was very appreciated. And we hope if they get little treats, they won't miss court. So that was a good way to start the school year. We had an expungement of records law, and this was a 2017 bill. And basically what the expungement bill does is that it expunges all juvenile records. Once the kids have successfully completed their sentences and don't have any other pending cases, the records are expunged. And what that means is that if somebody calls us, we tell them we don't have record of this case. Now, law enforcement, probation, courts, all of those kinds of agencies, human services, schools, all of those agencies can still get these records. They'll still find out that there was a case, because so often they have to know what kids' backgrounds are so that they can effectively give interventions. But this actually really does fit with our philosophy of promoting good behavior, because colleges and bosses, landlords, even the military are all going to be seeing the kids, or they don't know about the records. And it really does give kids a second chance. We also have the sealing of records that came up. Both these laws were passed last year, and this is for adults that have no prior criminal history. And so once the case is dismissed through a deferred judgment, the case can be sealed. And so it's the same idea that we're trying to give them another chance to start. Another law, and this is what Chief Diedel's been working so hard on, that was passed last year and started up January 1st, is the jail delay bill. And this basically says that once a person in custody has been arrested and they're being held on a municipal charge only, this doesn't apply to state charges, they have 2 days to be seen in court. And if they failed to appear once before, they have 4 days to be seen in court. We were somewhat involved in negotiating this. We actually got the 2 days and 4 days to get a little bit more of a cushion, but it has been challenging. The responsibilities and duties of the marshals have really gone way up. It's easy when people are arrested in Jefferson County. What happens though is that they're arrested all over the state, and then we have to either transport them, or we've been doing a lot of video and phone advisements. And this is complicated by the public defender bill, which requires that there be a public defender for every first court appearance. We used to have public defenders at the jail when needed, or on our public defender days. Now we have them every single day, and it's because of this bill that passed in 2016 but just became effective this year. When you combine the jail delay bill, where we're doing video and phone advisements, this does get challenging at times. We've got a great public defender's office, and they've made themselves available basically by phone. If we have somebody, or we're doing video or telephone advisements, they'll be available by phone so that they can make sure that the defendant talks to them and gives them full legal advice, and then they'll appear on speakerphone basically. And so the electronics have really helped in trying to protect those rights. You can see that there are a lot of counties in this state, and so each one of these pretty much has a jail, and each one of them arrests our defendants. And so at any given time, we have between 75 and 100 prisoners somewhere around the state outside of Jefferson County. And so that's what Chief Diedel has to keep track of, is all those prisoners, and when they're ready to be transported, when they're just our prisoners. And so it's actually been very complicated, but they've done a really good job on it. It's gone much more smoothly than I actually imagined. We're also trying to just keep our jail bed numbers down. We have caps now with the Jefferson County Jail. We've worked together with the other municipalities to share caps, which has been nice for us because we're the biggest user of the jail. Out of 50 beds, Lakewood has 21, and then we share the other 29 or so, and we do sometimes use other people's beds actually fairly regularly. And what we're really trying to do is to avoid coming to having people come to jail at all. And most defendants in municipal court don't need a jail sentence. The reason that we have so many warrants and so many arrests is that they don't show up for court. And so that's when the warrants go out. It looks like we're going to have about 4,656 arrest warrants in 2018. And as hard as we're working to keep those down, the numbers of people actually making it into the jail are much, much lower. The marshal's interns actually call every defendant before the warrant actually goes on the system. So we order the warrants and then the interns call. So every person has a chance to come in and take care of the warrant. And this year, out of those 4,656, it looks like we've kept 1,537 defendants from going to jail. The marshals have been bringing them straight into court the day they appear, or they give them another court date, usually with a PR bond or just basically we call it a failure to appear hearing. And so that's been 1323. They have taken about 190 to jail itself, but that used to be a much larger part of the 1323 people with warrants, and now it was only 190 going to the jail projected for 2018. And so I'm proud of how well we're using our resources. You can see that those jail beds are so expensive, and this really leaves those jail beds for the people that need it. We've done video, 4,236 arraignments over video. And then we're also, Judge Ramsey and I take turns. One of us is on call every weekend to be called when somebody's arrested. First of all, to make sure that there's probable cause that they should be in the jail, but then we can also adjust the bonds when we hear they've just been arrested over the weekends too. So we're working very hard trying to keep those numbers down and keep our use of the jail very efficient. Pretrial services from Jefferson County has actually been calling on the people who don't even have their court hearings yet. On every court appearance, they've been able to call 83% of the defendants, and those are the ones with working telephones. And so they've been making 400 to 500 calls a week, because that's how many hearings we have. And that we're hoping, we don't know the numbers yet, we're hoping that that's made a significant impact on the failures to appear. The statistics, you can see the summons numbers are somewhat down. I expect that when the PD gets fully staffed, that those will go back up again. Our numbers are completely dependent on what's happening with the summons numbers. So we have what the police department gives us. The specific offenses, and I usually give these to you every year. Again, the traffic numbers are the most summonses. We process right around 9,000 traffic cases. Parking, 3,600, infractions, 5,136. Judges only get involved in any of those if they want to fight the charges at trial. So I don't even see the parking and infractions very often. And the Violations Bureau really handles most of those. The no proof of insurance are also traffic, though the judges do look at those because they're much more serious and they can possibly go to jail if they're repeat offenders. But we spend most of our time on those adult penal, the DV, the juvenile, and then zoning. You can see that there are only 36 projected for 2018, but it's surprising how the zoning and the animal control cases tend to be very time consuming and are a high priority. They tend to be ones that take a lot of our time. The numbers have been, even with the numbers down, the revenue has been fairly consistent over the years. The Violations Bureau, they're collecting just over $2 million in fines. I'm always proud of how little they make mistakes. This year, as of September 30th, it was only $19 in mistakes, which apparently is pretty good. It sounds good to me. And then they've handled records requests, 660 of them, and then just under 10,000 traffic and parking cases. And those really are Tammy Smith's Violations Bureau clerks that handle all those. And then we're looking at 2,600 or so cases to be paid online and 1,800 and some by phone. And that's before we have our new system. So we're expecting those numbers to go way up. And then, like I said, we're looking at probably having 17,700 summonses this year. The new computer system, it's hard to know how that's going to affect the staffing and the jobs, and then we'll just have to see what happens with that. We do have interns helping. It's been wonderful having basically free help, 6 or 7 college interns, 7 high school interns, and that's been really great for them and great for us. 6 of our full-time staff right now started as the unpaid interns, so it's been a great way to get to know people and then get them hired. This is a little hard to see, but it's a snapshot basically of the kinds of hearings that we hold, and these are the ones that the judges do handle. And as you can see, it's 16,704 hearings, and many cases go to a number of different hearings, which is why there's so many compared to the number of summonses. Trials. We've got trials to the court. In fact, I had to stop one in the middle to come over and do this, and we're going to finish it up tomorrow. About 61 a year. Jury trial numbers are down, and I'm curious about why that's happening, but we'll look into that. I don't know. And then these other hearings are just kind of for your information. We're continuing to have scrutiny from a lot of outside groups. The courts, criminal justice reform, as I've talked to many of you about, is really still a focus of a lot of politicians and very much is in the news these days. And I can just assure you that we're working very hard to make sure that fairness and consistency are really primary parts of the Lakewood Municipal Court. And again, we're watching ourselves, but we're also really trying to train courts around the state. We're involved in actively trying to share what would be the standards of best practices and trying to stay on top of those. We meet very regularly with state, Jefferson County, and many judges. The issue often comes down to local control, and I think you all are very involved in all of this. There are a lot of county, state, and even federal government entities that would like to do more of what we tend to do in the municipalities. And certainly there are a lot of crimes and cases that are more appropriate handled by the county or even the state. But the cases that the municipal court handles, I believe, are handled very well. I think that just as in some other areas of local government, we're able to respond to the specific needs and personalities of our city. We often know the people and the citizens. We definitely know the resources and know the people and the other agencies involved. And so in a situation where we're more focused on intervention and treatment and trying to really take these quality of life crimes and help the people to stop doing them and to have more pro-social lives and activity, the municipal courts are ideal for that kind of treatment and intervention. Again, the least serious cases in the county court are the most serious cases in the municipal court, and I think we have a lot of success. just very quickly, we did another survey on if we're the judges, court clerks, and in general, if we're courteous and answer questions and professional. And I do want to remind you that these are people who don't want to come to our place. So we always get a few pretty negative ones. So I just want to remind you that they're under duress. And actually, Scott broke this down into percentages, which I think actually is easier to look at, which shows that we're right there in the 83% of people gave us 3s and 4s, the top two scores for judges and court clerks, and they were a little less happy with the time and comfort of the courthouse, the parking, that sort of thing. But I think it's still pretty good for a place where nobody really wants to be. We did get a few comments that were kind of fun. Defendants saying, "Well done, courtesy and affirmed dignity of the accused on paying a ticket. I appreciate detailed instructions of the judicial process. The staff and the judge seemed very helpful." Comment from the defendant: "I was treated very well despite my circumstances, not having money to pay today." Somebody was surprised at how fast the process was, though a lot of people have not had that same experience from the other, judging from the other responses. Prosecutor is understanding, window staff excellent. And so I just chose a couple of comments so you could see that even some of those offenders come in and are not too terribly unhappy with what we're doing. So anyway, thank you. And I wanted to encourage all of you to come visit anytime. So in fact, if you let us know, we can tell you the more interesting times. And we always love to have visitors. So
Great. Thank you very much. Very nice and thorough presentation. I really want to thank you and your staff. You do a lot with little, and you're always trying to look for new ways to innovate and really build a community asset that isn't so much based on just putting people in jail, but trying to help people. And as somebody who went through the courts here in Lakewood as a juvenile, I think you've always had that kind of ability to do that. And the veterans issues, you're leading the way, so many different areas. And you're also doing this while getting beat up at the legislature. And it's interesting, these outside groups, rightfully so, you see some of these reforms that need to take place, but you'll hear them say, well, we're not worried about Lakewood, right? You're doing it right. However, these other people, and you fall under this umbrella. So I know you've been great advocates for the municipal court system in and of itself. And I know that this council takes that seriously, and we always advocate for you when we need to, and try to help you out at the state capitol or with our elected officials. So,
and thank you. That is very much appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Mr. Bita?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Judge. Nice to see you again. First of all, thank you for your presentation. And secondly, I wanted to say something on this Veterans Court. As a practicing attorney, I've had some experience in other jurisdictions with the Veterans Courts. And I must say it's really gratifying to see Lakewood kind of on the leading edge on that. I think you're on the right track. I really do. Just from the few cases that I've seen and worked with, the surprising thing is they come up out of the blue. I mean, sometimes they're, it's not like these are returning veterans that are coming back right now. A lot of them are been around for a while, and then all of a sudden the wheels fall off and problems arise, and it could be 5 years, 10 years down the road. So, and then this really helps them get to the resources. They've maybe been holding things together and, with rubber bands, and finally they need to step up and find the resources that they need, which is what your program does. So it's not something that's going to go away even if we're not at war. It's going to be something that's going to be needed in the, indefinite future, I think. And I just wanted to mention that. The other thing I wanted to just ask you, I know there's been some changes in the last year from our legislature, some new requirements on you. Can you kind of maybe share with us a little bit what the impact of those have been on your court?
Well, the public defender bill certainly was big, and that has cost us quite a bit of money. I know that you're aware that our budget went up because of having to pay extra for the public defenders. There is a law giving $2 million to be shared among all the courts in the state. And actually, I'm going to a meeting on Thursday to find out how they're going to divvy up the $2 million. And so the expenses of the public defender bill have been significant.
For our listeners that may not know what that means.
And I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. What happened is that there were some groups that really pushed the legislatures to pass a law that basically said that there should be public defenders at every first appearance. Now, the United States Constitution has tended through the years to look at the first appearance as being a time when a person comes in and can request a public defender, and that was always what Lakewood and really many courts have done, is that we'd wait for the request, we'd try to get them the public defender right away, and the law actually said within a reasonable time. But the state legislature decided that they wanted to have attorneys with the defendants right away, immediately, before they ever asked for attorneys. And they wanted to make sure that they had somebody to advise them in case they wanted to plead guilty or wanted to argue bond. And the big things are arguing bonds or deciding that they want to take responsibility for the crime. And it is true that there are offenders who want to just plead guilty right away and get it done with. And so now they have an attorney at every single hearing. The issue was that it looked like an unfunded mandate, and so that's why there was a law passed to appropriate the $2 million. But like I said, I'm not sure how that's going to be divided up yet. It'd be nice if we had our costs covered, but I'd be a little surprised.
Any other change?
And then the jail delay bill is the one that is the 2-day and 4-day. And this is one of those that Mayor Paul alluded to, that there were some jurisdictions that were leaving people in custody for, sometimes up to a week or sometimes 10 days. And there were even some horror stories that maybe there was something longer, though those were very far and few between. We had trouble finding those, but there were some horror stories. And so the idea behind the jail delay bill was that municipal offenders really ought to get to court within 2 days of their arrest, which is pretty automatic when they're arrested in county, but it's been challenging when they're arrested out of county because it really is the same 2-day requirement. And so that's been somewhat challenging. And so the overall goal to make sure that people weren't sitting without being advised by a judge and without having a chance to handle their cases is certainly a good one. The requirements of the law have been somewhat challenging, but we're doing it. So, and then the expungement bill and the ceiling bills. The ceiling's actually been pretty simple to work with. I don't know how critical I should be about the new laws, but the expungement bill. What's that?
Floor is yours.
Well, the expungement bill, and I think I've made it pretty clear that it goes along with our goals too of giving kids another chance and really wanting to make sure that they're, that these crimes, these offenses don't follow them around. But in the 30-some pages of conflicting provisions and deadlines and hearings and advisements, and I wish I'd brought in the chart that Scott Hefty put together it's just a massive chart of all the different requirements and ways things can go. And so I bet we've had 2 full-time employees worth of hours that we've had to put in just to get these kids' cases expunged. And for example, they want us to look back every November 1st to see if kids who weren't eligible for expungement in the past year are now eligible for expungement because all their pending cases are taken care of. And does that mean that in September their case is done, and then November 1st we have to go back and run criminal histories on all of the kids that have happened in the year before? And so they're just provisions that have made it difficult with reporting requirements that have been really difficult. So it's been huge and very time consuming for the staff. Just huge amounts of paper that we have to hand deliver to the Colorado Bureau of Investigations. And I understand, I've heard rumors that that it's gotten back to the legislators, that this has been hugely expensive and cumbersome, and that we actually could do it much more easily if they would just let us figure out how to do it, or just come up with some more simple procedures. So the goal was great. The 30-some pages of deadlines and reporting requirements have been difficult.
And that's all unfunded, is that right?
That's all unfunded, yes.
You have to absorb the...
Yes, exactly. And then I'm trying to think of some of the others. Most of the other bills, there has been a fair amount of legislation having to do with municipal courts. Oh, I know another big one I didn't even talk about. We now have to do basically felony level advisements and felony level advisements on guilty pleas. And so it means, I believe that there was concern that some of the courts weren't really explaining to the defendants what they were facing and what the choices were and the elements of the offense and finding factual basis, all this kind of thing. And so we now have basically a felony level plea for every open container charge, and that was spelled out by law that it needed to be that thorough. And so we're protecting the defendant's rights, and I'm certainly a proponent of that, but it's they were so specific about the requirements that it's added a fair amount of court time. I guess if I were just to guess, probably a good hour and a half each day, just because there's so many things that we have to cover. Sometimes the defendants, I don't know if I should say all this, sometimes the defendants get a little frustrated and say, I just want to plead guilty, kid. Why are you asking me all these questions? It's like, sorry, I'm required to. I think, again, the intent was really good, but it just micro-managed, and the requirements are pretty demanding. So yeah, it's...
Sounds like you're doing it very well.
We're trying. So thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor. Well, Judge, as chair of the Legislative Committee, I'd really like to thank you for your leadership here in the city, but above and beyond that, you've been leader in the state regarding a lot of these bills and proposed legislation that has come down. You've gone down and testified, and I've always felt so comfortable knowing how involved you've been. I just would like to thank you, because you are making a difference, not just for us, but for the entire state with some of the silliness that's going on. And frankly, you bring some common sense to the table. Thank you. I'd also like to thank you for your innovation and creativity, and I believe the mayor mentioned this, regarding some of the programs that you're offering. And I also want to thank you for your involvement in mental health as it applies to children. I have a very dear cousin who, as little girls, there was something different about her. And frankly, if she would have been recognized and treated as a little girl, she would not be in a psychiatric hospital as I speak. So I appreciate what you've done. Her life would have been very different if people would have recognized really what was going on with her. And I do have one question. You were talking about minority misrepresentation, or overrepresentation. And you basically have a type of a task force that's looking at that and dealing with it. You said that you're IDing or identifying students that are at risk in the school system. That's awesome. And that you're providing services. Could you please give an example of some of the services that you're trying to help these kids with?
And this is basically, this was a federal grant, and so the county applied with a number of different stakeholders, and the Lakewood courts and the Lakewood Police Department are the main police department, the main court that agreed to get involved with this. And so the first couple of years or so have been collecting the data. As initially, we weren't sure that we would find a problem. And so we're at the point where it does appear that the numbers suggest that there is something we need to work on here. And so the kind of intervention that we're looking at, certainly human services involvement, trying to make sure that before there's any criminal behavior, is there family therapy? Do parents need treatment, drug treatment? Trying to just look and see, you know, the kids not making it to school. Are they not? Actually, when I hear about the Head Start, that just warms my heart too. It's so nice to hear about how the early intervention is so important. And so it's looking at those kinds of issues, and it's not criminal justice oriented. It really is trying to make sure that any high-risk families are getting the resources that they need, and hoping that will level the playing field in some ways. So, and they're just at the point of identifying this and then starting these meetings and the communication. And I think they're going to be getting suggestions from the professional group that's helping with the grant as to how to address a lot of the issues too. So I think I'll have more specific answers for you next year on programs, but they're at least talking and identifying at this point.
Thank you. I don't mean to not look at you. I'm taking notes.
Oh, no, that's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Mr. Roybal?
Thank you, Mayor. Judge, again, thank you very much for making a difference in our community. I have so many things to say, so I'll try to keep it brief as much as I can and do the important things. One of the huge things that we looked at, and I'm also a veteran, by the way, and the Veterans Court, working together with West Metro Veterans Fair, working with the VA system, which we have a facility here. And I got to tell you a little story that's really interesting that'll probably hit right to your heart. Counselor Abel called me one day, and we went down on West Colfax, and there was a gentleman. He was a Vietnam vet, a Marine. He was a tunnel rat. And he finally was on Colfax. He was on the ground, and he says, look, I'm willing to concede to society's rules. Can you please help me? So we were able to bring him in through your system and bring him into Valor Point. Now, that's an exciting system within itself. But what's even better is that this gentleman, and I'm going to call him James, turned around and went through the program and graduated from the program, but went back to where he came from, and I call it in the weeds, and brought some of his fellow veterans back through the system. So we were able to get him the housing, able to get him the retirement, the disability, but he started bringing more people in to bring our veterans home. And I want you to know that, and your system is playing a very important role. One veteran at a time, and we're taking them off the streets. The other thing that I wanted to mention was diversion. And about 6-7 years ago, we had a strong, in East Lakewood, especially in Ward 3, we had a huge challenge on graffiti. And with your help, and your help with diversion with the kids, with your programs and other programs together, our graffiti was dropped by 80%. So that's the good success in East Lakewood. But I wanted to also put out and shout out, and I normally don't do this, but I have to sometimes take exception. But there's a staff member that you have, Shane Littleton. I have to tell you, kudos to him. Give him a raise, whatever you got to do. Keep him happy. He has helped our communities, our seniors, like you wouldn't believe. We had, in our community, we have such diverse community. Everything from Belmar to ranching, ranches from $40,000 modular homes to $2.5 million, and they're right next to each other. And we have a lot of seniors that want to stay in place in their house. And sometimes they're challenged. This individual is about 77 years young and needed a little bit of love. And the kids came over and they showed this young lady a little bit of love. And she wanted to make sure and let you know that she is very grateful and say thank you, thank you, thank you. But I want you to know that. And last, wanted to also say your programs that you're doing here is second to none. I'm excited. We were this morning, I took a little short tour of your courts, went with the constituent, was a little bit of afraid to go in front of the courts. So I just stood there with him for support and walked in. He walked in, he addressed his issue and walked out. And the first comment he said was, "My goodness, these courts are really awesome." And that was his words. And again, he had his issues resolved, everything moved forward, but he was really satisfied with the way he was treated and his performance and the performance of your staff and the judge. So I just wanted to put that out there for you, and I just wanted to say thank you again.
Thank you.
I'm done.
Thank you. Anything else? All right. Well, thank you. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Appreciate it.
And we have public feedback period. Nobody's signed up, so I will close that. And we will go into reports. And I'm going to just ask a real quick question of council or the clerk. So ballots are going out, and the big blue books came out, but has anybody received the small blue book? So you did. Okay, so those should be coming this week as well. And the small one will address all the local issues.
Mine arrived before
Okay.
before the weekend.
Okay. All right. Maybe it goes that way. So good. So ballots are out and are going out today. And the white book, which will handle the local issues, should be arriving. The big blue book should already be there. They have had some issues with the blue book. So I think reach out to your clerk's office if you have a question or if it was potentially sent to the wrong address. I would urge you to start at the bottom of your ballot and work your way all the way to the top, as it will be long. A lot of fun things going on in the city and different meetings. I'll let the different council members address those. I will say this was a really cool opportunity that I had. The Prince Alexander and Princess Catherine of Serbia were in town, and they've been in town frequently, but there's a Serbian Orthodox church off Cedar and Garrison, and so they were in town for Project Cure and stopped by Lakewood to visit. And Prince Alexander's dad, who was the king, was actually pushed out by the Nazis, and so they have not been back until recently, within the last 5 years, to Serbia and kind of taken that back up. But now it's a much more honorary role, but they've always enjoyed their time here in the city of Lakewood. So I think that's all I have. I'll go all the way down to my left.
No report.
Mr. Abel?
No report.
Just a really quick one. A thank you to the community action team. No, that's not right. Community Okay, that's right. Gosh, I got it right. Helped solve a serious issue in Ward 5, and I just wanted to make sure that they understood the neighbors are thrilled, and they did a really neat neighborhood service. So would you pass along our thank yous? Thank you.
Mr. Skilling.
I would like to just thank Councilor Abel for tonight's workshop. For the public that isn't aware, they can read the second draft of the campaign finance update that we're doing. And thank you to Councilor Abel, who shepherded that along over the past 6 months or so. So now the public can read that, and also stay tuned for whenever we're having the first reading of that. I don't know when that is, but hopefully soon.
I think it's November 26th. Ms. Goodwine, Mr. Roybal,
No report.
Ms. Franks.
Thanks, Mayor Paul. Well, I just was, before our meeting tonight, was checking my Facebook feed and saw that the Action Center posted their progress on the $17,000 grant match, and they are at $14,219. So they're only $2,781 away, and it would be great if we hit $17,000 on the 17th, so 2 days. If you have an employer match or you have a little extra cash, just keep in mind they were going through some hard times, and so if you can't donate cash, they also certainly food items. I keep reminding folks men's clothing. I don't know if we're getting the word out. I don't know if they're being inundated, but please be sure to reach out. The long-term goal is to get them funded enough to where we can reopen the beds for the homeless shelter. That's an important thing. The cold weather is upon us. It came quickly, and so we just want to think about those folks that don't have permanent shelters. So thank you. And also want to say thanks to the folks who stopped at our Ward 4 meeting this past weekend. We appreciate you always coming out.
Great, thank you. Mr. Bita.
No report.
Ms. Vincent.
Just real quick, for those of you who live in the Two Creeks neighborhood, they are having their annual meeting this Thursday, 6:30 at Mount Air Church. And Ward 2 is having an additional meeting, which will be the 23rd at 6:30 to 8. Correct? Sounds right, okay. And that will be at the 40 West building, and that's it.
Ms. Johnson.
No report.
You know, before, you brought something up about sheltering, so there is an update. I was in a meeting of the CYLC, and Mean Streets had been struggling with their family shelter and where they were going to put it. There were some issues with West Metro Fire. They have found 4 different locations, so they're going to be hopefully rotating the family shelter to 3 places in Lakewood, 1 in Wheat Ridge, and the CYLC granted, contingent upon those locations, funding of about $35,000 for their program director. And so hats off to West Metro Fire, who's really tried to work with them. So hopefully by November 1, the family shelter will be in operation. And then they're still working on the severe weather shelter, which takes adults to churches as well. So piecemealing it, but things are moving forward. So thank you for mentioning that. Michelle, anything? Greg? Kathy? All right, so we will adjourn at 8:24. Agent Hunt, thank you very much. You got off easy tonight. Go home and go to bed. Thank you.